White dress, lace like spun moonlight, the scent of 1,000 lilies. It felt like a dream. My dream. Walking down that aisle, sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows, seeing Jihoon at the altar, it was everything I had ever imagined. A perfect beginning. A fairy tale. I truly believed, in that shimmering moment, that my life was finally starting. That all the lonely years, all the quiet hopes I'd whispered to the stars, were culminating in this breathtaking promise. My heart swelled with a love so profound, so absolute. It felt like it could rewrite the stars themselves. I remember the soft gasp I let out as I saw Jihoon, his eyes shining with what I thought was adoration, waiting for me. Every step I took felt lighter than air, as if the very ground beneath my feet was celebrating our union. But even in the midst of all that dazzling beauty, there was a shadow, a subtle chill that I couldn't quite place, a note slightly off-key in the symphony of joy. It was her, Jihoon's mother. From the moment our families met, she had been present. No, not just present, dominating. At first, I told myself it was just her way of showing she cared. She was so involved in the wedding planning, choosing the venue, the flowers, even the shade of white for my dress. Whiter than white, she insisted. For purity, she said with a pointed look that made me blush and feel strangely inspected. It wasn't the warm, excited involvement of a mother welcoming a daughter, but something more akin to an architect meticulously reviewing blueprints, ensuring every detail was to her exacting standard. I remember trying to suggest a softer ivory lace, something more romantic, but her smile tightened, and her voice, though still sweet, had an edge. No, dear. White. Pure white. It's much more appropriate. During the ceremony, I could feel her eyes on me. Not a warm, welcoming gaze, but something assessing. Like I was a prized possession being presented to the family, rather than a person joining it. Each time I glanced towards the guests, her gaze seemed to lock onto mine, unwavering, intense. It was like being under a spotlight, constantly evaluated, measured against some unseen, impossible standard. After the vows, when we turned to face our families, her smile was tight. And when she hugged me, it wasn't a comforting embrace. It was possessive. Her voice, low and husky, whispered in my ear, "Welcome to the family, dear. Now, let's make sure you make this family even bigger, shall we?" I remember laughing nervously, thinking it was just wedding day excitement. Silly me. Her words lingered in the air, a strange premonition I brushed aside, blinded by the day's supposed joy. The honeymoon. We'd planned Santorini. Whitewashed houses clinging to cliffs, sunsets that painted the sky, romantic, right? Wrong. From the moment we checked into our hotel, the phone started ringing. It was her. Every morning, every evening, sometimes even during the day when Jihoon and I were trying to have a moment to ourselves. "Are you eating well, dear? You need to be strong. Are you resting enough? You need to be healthy. Are you trying?" That last question hung in the air, thick and suffocating, even over the crackling international phone line. Trying. Trying for what? It didn't take long to realize. The honeymoon wasn't about us. It was about conception. And Santorini, the sunsets, the romance, it was just a backdrop, a gilded cage. The breathtaking views, the turquoise waters, all felt tainted, overshadowed by her constant, intrusive calls. Santorini became less a romantic escape and more a pressure cooker, the idyllic scenery mocking the anxiety building within me. We came back from Santorini, sun-kissed and exhausted, only to find she had rearranged our apartment. For better flow, she'd chirped, as if she'd done us a favor. My books, my photos, the little trinkets that made our space hours all gone, replaced with heavy, ornate furniture that screamed her taste. The light, airy feel I had cultivated was replaced with dark wood and heavy brocade, suffocating the space, suffocating me. My carefully chosen artwork was taken down, replaced with stern, ancestral portraits that seemed to watch my every move. And then the schedule started. Breakfast at 7, sharp. Healthy Korean breakfast, of course, for you and the baby-to-be. Baby-to-be. It became her mantra. Every meal, Every conversation, every breath seemed to revolve around this phantom child. It wasn't a gentle hope, but a demand, a constant reminder of what she expected, what she demanded from me. She took over the kitchen, my kitchen. I had always loved to cook, finding solace and creativity in the simple act of preparing a meal. It was my space, a place of comfort and control in my own home. Suddenly, my carefully curated pantry was filled with jars of dubious herbal concoctions, all meant to boost fertility. Teas that tasted like swamp water, bitter pills I had to swallow with a forced smile, all under her watchful eye. One day, determined to reclaim some semblance of normalcy, I decided to cook dinner. I spent hours preparing a traditional Korean stew, something I had learned from my own mother, something I wanted to share with Jihoon, with us. I felt a flicker of hope, a tiny spark of defiance against the encroaching darkness of her control. But then she arrived, as if summoned by some invisible alarm. She surveyed my carefully prepared meal with a dismissive sniff. "Oh dear, that's interesting. But perhaps a little too spicy for the evening? And are you sure you used the right kind of broth?" Her criticisms were veiled in sweet concern, but the underlying message was clear. I was inadequate, my efforts worthless. She insisted on helping, pushing me aside, adding her own ingredients, her own touches, effectively taking over my meal. Later that evening, as I was clearing the table, I noticed something. The trash bin, slightly ajar, revealed the contents from earlier. My stew, untouched, discarded, and on the stove, simmering gently, was my stew. Or rather, her version of my stew. She had thrown away my entire meal and recooked it, presenting it as if it was simply improved. The sheer audacity, the calculated humiliation, it was breathtaking. It wasn't just about the food. It was about erasing me, replacing me, asserting her absolute dominance in every single aspect of my life. The kitchen, my sanctuary, had become another battleground, another space where I was deemed incompetent, unworthy. Doctor's appointments were arranged without consulting me. Just routine checkups, dear, to make sure everything is optimal. Optimal for what? For breeding? I started to feel like livestock, being fattened up and prepared for production. Each appointment felt like an invasion, my body probed and measured, reduced to a set of reproductive organs under scrutiny. The doctors, polite but impersonal, spoke to me as if I were a child, addressing my mother-in-law with deferential respect, completely ignoring my presence or my concerns. My friends called, wanting to catch up, to hear about the honeymoon. But every time I tried to make plans, she would intervene. "Oh, dear, you shouldn't tire yourself out. Rest is important now. Socializing can wait." Slowly, subtly, she isolated me. My world shrank to the four walls of our apartment, and within those walls, her presence was inescapable. She created a web of obligations and expectations, each strand designed to keep me tethered to her control. Even a simple coffee with a friend was framed as a selfish indulgence, a threat to my primary duty. My connections to the outside world were systematically severed, leaving me adrift in her manufactured reality. Jihoon, he was there, physically, but emotionally he was miles away. He'd nod and agree with everything his mother said, a weak smile plastered on his face. If I tried to talk to him, to express my suffocating fear, he'd dismiss it. "Mom just cares, honey. She just wants what's best for us. For the family. For her family," I wanted to scream. Not mine. Not us. His indifference was a constant, gnawing pain. He had become a ghost in our own home, a shadow of the man I thought I had married. His eyes, once filled with what I believed was love, now held a vacant, almost fearful expression whenever his mother was near. He had retreated into himself, abandoning me to face her alone. One evening, I was looking for a lost earring. Kneeling down by the bedside table, I saw it. A tiny, almost imperceptible glint of metal, tucked under the edge of the wood. A camera, hidden. My blood ran cold. I started searching. The bedroom, the living room, even the bathroom, tiny pinhole cameras everywhere. Watching, recording, my privacy, my life, being meticulously documented without my knowledge, without my consent. Who was watching? And why? Fear turned into a cold, hard knot in my stomach. This wasn't just overbearing. This was sinister. The air in the apartment suddenly felt thick, suffocating, as if the walls themselves were closing in. Every corner, every shadow seemed to harbor a hidden eye, watching, judging, waiting. The sense of violation was profound, a deep, chilling realization that my home, my supposed sanctuary, was nothing more than a stage, and I, the unwitting performer in a twisted, private show. I had to know. I had to find out who was behind this, what they were doing with those recordings. Late one night, when I was sure they were both asleep, Jihoon and his shadow, his mother, I crept into his study. He always left his computer on, another careless habit that now felt deliberate, like he wanted me to find something, or be found. Perhaps a twisted game, a way to exert control even through revelation. My hand shook as I plugged in a USB drive. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the suffocating silence. The faint hum of the computer was deafening in the stillness of the night, each whirring sound amplifying my fear and anticipation. Files, folders and folders, neatly labeled. Living room, bedroom, bathroom. Disgusting. Voyeuristic. But then one folder at the very bottom of the list, in stark red letters, Project Lineage. Project. Lineage? The words hit me like a physical blow. A cold dread washed over me. Lineage. Family line. Children. It all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The pieces of the puzzle, the constant baby pressure, the invasive questions, the rearranged apartment, the hidden cameras, all coalesced into this single, terrifying phrase. I opened the folder. Videos. Dozens of them. Each one titled with a date, a time, and meeting. Meetings? Between whom? My breath hitched in my throat, a strangled gasp of fear and understanding. I clicked on the first video. There they were. Jihoon and his mother. Weeks before the wedding. Months before. Planning. Plotting. Their faces, smug and calculating, filled the screen. My mother-in-law's voice, cold and sharp, sliced through me like a knife. She's perfect, Jihoon. Healthy. Presentable. Good family background, but not too good. Understand? Manageable. And her medical reports, excellent fertility scores. We need grandchildren, Jihoon. Our lineage must continue. Quickly. Lineage. Not love. Not partnership. Lineage. I was an incubator. A vessel. Nothing more. The casual cruelty in her voice. The utter disregard for my humanity. It was like a physical assault. My carefully constructed reality crumbled, revealing the cold, calculated machinery beneath. Jihoon's voice, weak and hesitant in the video. But, Mom, what if she wants to wait? What if she has other plans? His mother scoffed, a cruel, dismissive laugh. Wants? Her wants are irrelevant. She will do as she is told. That's what wives are for. You will guide her, Jihoon. Remind her of her duties. This marriage is not about love, understand? It's about legacy. Legacy. Duties. I was a duty. My life, my body, my dreams all reduced to a duty. A legacy project. The word legacy echoed in my mind, a hollow, meaningless concept compared to the vibrant, breathing life they were so callously disregarding. Tears streamed down my face. Hot, furious tears of betrayal and devastation. Everything I thought was real, everything I had hoped for, a lie. A meticulously crafted, cruel lie. The wedding, the vows, the promises, all just elaborate stage dressing for this monstrous charade. I stumbled out of the study, the USB drive clutched in my hand, my body shaking with rage. They were in the living room, sitting on the sofa, sipping tea, bathed in the soft evening light, like nothing was wrong, like they hadn't just shattered my entire world. The normalcy of the scene, the peaceful domesticity, was a grotesque mockery of the turmoil raging within me. I threw the USB drive onto the glass coffee table. It clattered loudly, a sharp, angry sound that shattered the fragile peace. You planned this. I screamed, my voice raw and broken. All of it. The wedding, the baby pressure, me. You just see me as a fertility machine. The carefully constructed facade of polite smiles and gentle control shattered, replaced by the raw, untamed fury of a cornered animal. Jihoon stammered, "Honey, please calm down. Let's talk? After everything?" I cut him off, my voice icy, laced with venom. "Don't you dare call me honey. I saw the videos. I heard you both. Project Lineage. What gives you the right to decide my life, my body? I am not your property. I am a person." My words were fueled by years of suppressed anger, months of suffocating control, finally erupting in a torrent of pain and rage. Her hand flashed out. My mother-in-law's hand. A stinging slap across my face. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating. My cheek burned, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the gaping wound in my heart. Jihoon just stood there, frozen, useless, pathetic. In that moment, I knew. There was no reasoning with them. No escape within these walls. I had to run. I had to get out. Now. The slap was not just a physical blow. It was the final, brutal punctuation mark on my shattered illusion of marriage, of family, of hope. It was the definitive confirmation that I was nothing more than an object in their meticulously crafted plan. I ran, out of the apartment, down the stairs, into the night, leaving everything behind. My clothes, my possessions, my gilded cage. The cool night air hit my face, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Freedom. A fleeting, fragile sense of freedom washed over me. Just being away from that house, from her, from him. It was a relief so profound it almost brought me to my knees. Each breath was a victory, each step away from that oppressive apartment a liberation. The city sounds, once a source of anxiety, now felt like a symphony of freedom, a stark contrast to the suffocating silence of my former life. I found a cheap motel, miles away. Huddled in the dingy room, wrapped in a thin blanket, I felt safe for a moment. But the feeling didn't last. Every creak of the floorboards, every passing car made me jump. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see her face, cold and furious, looming in the shadows. Were they looking for me? Were they tracking me? The cameras, were they just in the apartment? Or everywhere? Paranoia became my constant companion, whispering doubts and fears into my ear. The anonymity of the motel, the supposed safety of distance, felt fragile, easily breached. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. I hesitated, my hand trembling above the screen. Could it be them? Was this another way to control me, to trap me? My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic bird trapped in a cage of fear. Every instinct screamed at me to ignore it, to throw the phone away, to disappear completely. But a morbid curiosity, a terrifying need to know, compelled me to answer. I answered it, my voice barely a whisper. "Hello." Silence. A chilling, oppressive silence that stretched on, each second amplifying my dread. Then a distorted, synthesized voice, cold and emotionless, like a machine. "Lineage must be preserved." Click. The line went dead. The mechanical, inhuman tone of the voice amplified the horror, stripping away any semblance of human emotion, leaving only cold, calculated intent. Lineage must be preserved. Her words, her obsession. Even miles away, in the anonymity of the city night, they found me. They were still watching, still controlling. Freedom, it was an illusion. I had escaped the cage, but the bars were still there, invisible, unbreakable, surrounding me. The city lights outside the motel window suddenly seemed to flicker and dim, casting long, menacing shadows that danced like specters of my past. Trapped, always trapped. And the nightmare was far from over. The chilling message echoed in the silence of the motel room, a haunting promise that escape was not an option, and that the threads of their control stretched further than I could ever imagine. True freedom, I realized with a sickening certainty, might be a dream I could never afford to dream again.